Welcome to A for Apocalypse, where we investigate life hacks and survival tips and grade them on how useful they'll be in the zombie apocalypse. Thank you so much for joining me. We have an amazing show for you. I am super excited. Now, before we jump into things, we need to lay some ground rules. Because nobody knows exactly how a zombie apocalypse is going to manifest, we need to make some assumptions. On the one hand, we have Max Brooks, the acclaimed author of World War Z. Now, his philosophy is that when the zombies come, you're going to have enough difficulty surviving without adding more difficulties to your plate. So your best bet is to stay home. You're familiar with it, you're familiar with the area, zombie-proof your home, and hunker down and ride it out. And pray that you're lucky. On the other hand, you have Mac Mogg and the Zombie Research Society. Now, they based their philosophy off of some simulations that were run by a group at Cornell. And they found that the best thing for you to do is to head for the hills. Literally, get as far away from civilization as you can. And why is that? Well, a zombie apocalypse is most likely going to manifest as some kind of viral outbreak. And viruses need a core population in order to survive and spread. If you get yourself away from civilization, not only will you have fewer zombies to contend with in the first place, but also the virus itself will have fewer hosts to infect and will eventually die out. So on the one hand, urban area, and on the other hand, wilderness survival. Now, the one other thing that we need to take into account is just an basic understanding of what life hacks are. We all have an idea. A life hack is just something that makes life easier for us when you don't have the right tools, right? But there's a little bit more than that. There's this great psychological phenomenon called the functional fixedness. Basically what it means is that the vast majority of us, like nearly 80% of us, have a very difficult time seeing objects for anything other than the original function for which it was made. So most people wouldn't see a CD as anything other than something to listen to music to, instead of using it as something to protect your antique coffee table from a wet, cold drink. I'm going to jump ahead and we're going to go do a short experiment to demonstrate this phenomenon of functional fixedness. This is an experiment that was done 70, 80 years ago, a long time ago, in which the vast majority of the participants could not figure this out. So let's go take a look. With me in my bag, I have a thumbtack, a demented tea light, and a box of matches. So this experiment that was designed 70 some odd years ago was designed to get the participants to attach somehow this candle to a wall and light it. And the finding was that over 75%, nearly 80% of participants couldn't figure it out. That means that for every 5 of you watching, 1 of you is going to look at that and say, of course that's how you do it. And 4 of you are going to look at it and say, oh, I could have figured that out if only I'd thought of it. And that's just how it works, because most of us are not primed to look at objects beyond what they're originally designed for. So how would you take these objects and attach it to the wall? Okay, I'm going to use this tree here as the wall. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to take the thumbtack and poke it through one side of the box, like so. And I'm going to take that and affix it to the tree. And voila, it becomes a shelf. And then you put the light on it, and there we are. Now, I'm not lighting it just because I'm in a wooded area and, you know, I don't want Smokey the Bear after me, but you get the point. So, with that, let's go on and check out some of our other hacks. The first hack we'll be dealing with involves a AA battery and a stick of chewing gum. Now, it's one of these sticks where the foil, the wrapper, is foil around paper. We're going to take this foil wrapper and use a knife. Scissors are really better unless it's a really sharp knife. And we are going to cut kind of an hourglass shape so that the center is nice and thin. You don't want it to be so thin that it snaps, but you want it to be thin enough that it will catch fire when you've created the connection between the positive and the negative terminal. I'm going to put on protective glove. I'm going to put the one side on the negative terminal and one side on the positive terminal, and you can see very, very soon that it'll start to smoke and start to burn. And this is making me out to be a liar. There we go. And you put that next to some kind of kindling and poof, it will catch fire. The next hack we're going to take a look at, and this is one of my favorites, is a 9-volt battery and some steel wool. Now we're going to pull the steel wool apart a little bit, make it nice and fibrous, and then we just run the 9-volt battery over it, and you can see it sparks like crazy. And those sparks can set a nice little fire. Which we will quickly put out because we are in a forest. This, as you can probably tell, gets an A+. Quick, easy, and literally within a matter of seconds, gets you a nice warm fire. Now I know I said that the 9-volt battery and steel wool was my favorite hack, but I have to make an exception for this. Now, if you don't have any 9-volt batteries around or AA batteries and gum, the next best thing is this wonderful little device. It's called a lighter. It's a canister, it contains a volatile liquid, and it has a little striker thing on top. And all you have to do is push down really quickly, and you get a fire. It is awesome. And these things are available in almost any supermarket you find, so if you're in a zombie apocalypse, go loot a supermarket. Instant fire. I give this an A++. The next hack we're going to take a look at is one you may have done when you were a kid, and involves magnifying glass and something flammable. And with the magnifying glass, you need to find that focal point and make it as small a pinpoint as possible. So I'm clearly having difficulty getting this one to work. Now, one of the key things to remember with this is that this works best in the hotter months, in warmer climates, where the sun tends to be more directly overhead. Right now it is the fall in the northeast, and the strength of the sun and the angle of the sun is not always favorable. I would give this a B+. Because when it works fantastic. And when it doesn't, well, let's just say you got to rely on other methods, such as the battery. Well, that's about all the time we have for today, folks. Thank you so much for joining me on my journey. I really appreciate your presence here. It's really you guys who make this what it is. That's presents with a CE, not TS, although if you wanted to give me presents with a TS, I wouldn't say no, especially if they come in the form of pizza or a chocolate cake. Just saying. Anyway, if you have any hacks that you want me to test out in a future episode, please note them in the comment section below. In the meantime, click to subscribe, leave me feedback in the comments section, preferably positive feedback or constructive criticism, emphasis on constructive, folks, let's keep it nice. And stay tuned for the next episode of A for Apocalypse.